As petrol heads, we live in a very privileged era where there are dozens of choices for stunning top-of-the-line supercars. From Mercedes with the AMG GTR, from Aston Martin with the DBS Superleggera, McLaren offers the 720S and all their LT models, and Porsche, of course, with their RS models. However, this was not always the case. 2 decades ago, not nearly as many manufacturers made supercar category models. The supercar market was really only dominated by 2 brands, Ferrari and Lamborghini, with their flagship 12-cylinder models. That's why I personally really like the older Ferrari models, because back then it was so rare and such an occasion to see their flagship models on the streets. And today we're reviewing one of the last models from Ferrari, from an era where Ferrari was still the dominant player of the supercar market. And that is this 1997 Ferrari 550 Maranello. As mentioned in my previous 512TR episode, back in 1996, then Ferrari President Luca Di Montezemolo decided to stop making mid-engine 12-cylinder cars, something that I've been doing for 23 years by that time, and went back to the traditional ways of making the 12-cylinder Ferraris, which is putting the engine in the front. The reason for this is because Luca Di Montezemolo wanted a flagship model that's first easier to maintain and secondly more usable. With the engine at the front, parts such as the cam belts are a lot more accessible. That's why it will be easier to maintain, and the car's layout will also be more balanced because the engine is at the front while the gearbox is at the back. So there's a more of a 50-50 weight balance, making the car more comfortable and more easier to use. Now the engine of this car was a new V12 cylinder engine, which Ferrari first tested in their 4-seater model, being the 456 GT from 1992. While the engine in this car is largely the same as the one in the 456, Ferrari made a lot of revisions and improvements to it, including a new cylinder head and a new intake system, pushing the horsepower of this car to 485, which was a very impressive figure back in the late 90s. Ferrari made the 550 Maranello from 1996 to 2001, and in that time they made about 3,000 of them, and only in manual. There are no F1 550 Maranellos, making this a very rare car. And motor journalists at the time all praised the 550 for not only being a very comfortable Grand Tour, but also a very capable performance car with very well-balanced handling. So it's time to go for a test drive now. Very excited. First impression, as expected with these V12 Grand Tour Ferraris, it's very roomy, very comfortable, very luxurious, leather all around. Being a Ferrari from this era, before you start, you have to press this immobilizer button. It's something exclusive, to this generation only. My 360 has the same. Now, immediately when I started, you can hear this very nice V12 roar. Now, however, I must say it's not original. This car does have the 2B exhaust, because this generation's Ferrari, and actually, even the few generations before, are quite tame. The original exhaust is not that loud. I think it all started when they started using fuel injection engines, starting from the 512 BBI Boxer and the fuel injected 308 onwards. Those generation Ferraris, including up to this generation, they're just not loud originally with the original exhaust. So a lot of them have changed to 2B or other aftermarket manufacturers. So let's go. It's a conventional H-gate, so not a dogleg. Fly-off handbrake. Clutch is a bit heavy, a little bit lighter than the Testarossa. But you know, easy to maneuver. You see, I can set off no problem. So let's see how this 485 horsepower V12 engine sounds like. Very easy to heel toe, which is much welcomed. So, first impression. The car sounds good. It sounds different from the flat 12 engine, and that's just because the nature of the engines are different. One is a 180-degree flat 12 engine in the 512 TR. This is a proper V12. Of course, this still sounds nice. I mean, no Italian 12-cylinder engine sounds bad, that's for sure. The car is fast, definitely picks up quicker than the 512 TR. You feel that despite it being a heavy car, it does shift the weight quite effortlessly. It's not as fast as the Murcielago though. I think that's due to it not being, first of all, it's about 100 horsepower down from the Murcielago. The Murcielago has about 580, this has 480 horsepower. And also, this doesn't have the four-wheel drive system that the Murci has. But very respectable car. The moment you step on it, you know it's a powerful and fast car. And it sounds good and very comfortable. Very comfortable. It is fast though. Trust me, it's not slow. And it's funny, once you start gunning it a bit, going through these corners. First of all, it is very balanced. And when you're really going through twisties and whatnot, the size feels like it shrinks around you. Suddenly, it doesn't feel like as wide as it is. When you're driving slowly in a car park, it does feel wide, but once you give it a spirited drive, it feels smaller. Very torquey. In a road like Shek O, you can pretty much go through the whole way in second gear. We're at second gear now. Very quickly, you're doing some naughty speeds. Ooh, nice! Let's give it some gas. And that V12 does sound familiar. So after a bit of a spirited drive, let's put it this way, I can see why the car was so loved by motor journalists around the world when it was first released. It really is a very all-rounded car. I mean, on one hand, it's a comfortable Grand Tour, which was what it was made to be. This is a proper Grand Tour car made to do long distance drives at rapid speed. And this car does have that. It's very comfortable. I'm following some slow cars now. You could be driving any luxury cars, it feels the same. But at the same time, when you really give it some juice and really gun it a bit, the car does transform. It is really capable, even in these narrow Hong Kong Shek O roads, which frankly was not what the car was made for. It transforms. The car just transforms. It really is an all-rounded car with comfort and performance, both. So the owner of this car has owned this car for around 18 years already. Clearly, he really loves it, and this car really continues to excite him every day when he drives it. And throughout the years, he had obviously done a lot of maintenance, particularly in 2020, so last year, he decided to put this car through the Ferrari Classique program. As you know, that program is when a Ferrari is brought to the dealership, and the dealership will do a thorough check and replace anything as needed, changing all the old parts, renewing everything. And at the end of that process, Ferrari will certify that this classic Ferrari is completely original and at the standard that as it was when it was first released, however many years ago. And that is what the Classique certificate is about, which this car got last year. And in the process, all the hoses were changed, the fuel pumps were changed, all the rubbers were changed, bushings, the windshields were taken off to address the these sort of rust problem that the 550 is prone to have around the front and rear windshields. So this whole car was it was like a 6 months process, and everything was changed all to original spec and original standard. So this car is actually in very rude health right now. It's as good as it has been. Obviously, the Classique certificate, costs you some money. It's not going to be cheap, proper 6-figure bills. But for a car like this, they only made 3,000 of these. A old school flagship 12-cylinder Ferrari model, manuals only. Of course, it's worth it. If I had one, I'll put it through the Classique program too. And the owner clearly loves it. And as always, I am extremely grateful to the owner for lending us his proper pride and joy fresh out of the Classique certification for us to review. Thank you to the owner again, thanks to the team. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed the car. If you did, please give us a like, please subscribe, and we'll have more classic car videos coming soon. Thank you.